Hi, I'm Adam Pritchard, Assistant Curator of Paleontology at the Virginia Museum of Natural History, bringing you more tales of ancient life. The mission of the Virginia Museum of Natural History is really one that's about questions. Questions about the natural history of the Commonwealth of Virginia and how that fits into the big picture natural history of the entire planet. As scientists, we work to ask and answer our own questions and research about natural history, but we also answer questions from people all around the world. Right now, the Virginia Museum of Natural History physically is closed. And it kind of stinks. I miss it a lot. But that absolutely doesn't mean that the mission of the VMNH stops there. In fact, it becomes all the more important that we keep asking and answering questions about natural history during the current crisis. Today's episode of Tales of Ancient Life is all about a series of 7 questions that I received from Mrs. Christy Adams Athey, a 3rd grade teacher at Flintstone Elementary School in Flintstone, Western Maryland. Go Sparks! And so, Mrs. Athey and class, I'm going to get to the questions now. Question number 1. What is a fossil? It's a good question. Classic question. A fossil is any part of the body of an ancient organism, living thing, that is preserved, buried in the rocks of the earth. It can also be any trace, like the trails left by a living thing. Typically, what happens is a living thing, an organism, will die, and it becomes buried in some kind of surrounding layer. Dirt, mud, sand. Once that burial happens, the body of the organism, at least some part of it, becomes hardened and preserved inside of that rock layer. It doesn't decay and all fall away. Examples of fossils include things like the bones of ancient animals, dinosaur bones, woolly mammoth bones. These are very hard things, but it doesn't have to be bones. You can have the hard shells of animals without backbones, snails and clams. Sometimes you have soft-bodied organisms that manage to get preserved as well. We see fossils of ancient squids, octopus, even jellyfish can be preserved as fossils under the right conditions. And it's not just animals. Plants make up a big part of the fossil record too. We have the ancient leaves and branches of fossil plants, tree trunks, even microscopic pollen grains, too small to see with the naked eye, can be preserved as part of the fossil record. And it doesn't have to be parts of the body either. The trails and traces left by living things are also part of the fossil record. For example, the footprints and tracks of ancient dinosaurs, or even the leaves that preserve the tiny nibble marks of ancient insects. That is a kind of fossil. The most disgusting fossils I can think of are the sort of toilet leavings of ancient animals. A piece of fossil poop, that can happen, is called a coprolite. A piece of fossil vomit is called a regurgitolite. These are real technical terms I'm talking about here. And these are really important fossils because they tell us a lot about what ancient animals ate and how they digested their food. All of those things, because they are parts of ancient organisms or the traces left by organisms preserved in the rocks, count as fossils. Question number 2. Have you ever found a fossil? Yeah, I'm really lucky. I've actually found a lot of fossils over the past 13 years. I've been doing this a little while. The first fossil I ever found when I was about 20 years old, so older than all of you members of Mrs. Athey's class. And that was in a fossil site in Florida. It was over 1 million years old. There was a lot of really big, impressive animals there. Giant sloths, giant armadillos, 4 tusked elephants called gomphotheres. Really cool stuff. But I didn't find any of those, even though I wanted to. What I instead found when I was digging very carefully with a small, I think it was a screwdriver, just picking through the mud, was this little fossil that looked almost like a twig, like a tiny piece of a branch. It was about 1 inch long. It was a part of the pelvis of an ancient frog. That was my very first fossil. Since then, I've been lucky enough to dig in a fossil site in New Mexico, which has early dinosaurs and ancient relatives of crocodiles, about 212 million years old. And we've found hundreds and hundreds of fossils. And with the Virginia Museum of Natural History, I've been involved in a dig at the Carmel Church Quarry, which is a fossil site that preserves ancient whales over 14 million years old. Question number 3. How can I find a fossil? It's not always an easy question. Fossils are present in lots of different places around the world. You're probably not that far away from a fossil site right now, but there are lots of factors to pay attention to. Rocks everywhere in the world are different. So you have to learn about the kinds of rocks that are around you. What age were they created? What kind of environment were they created in? Oceans, rivers, deserts, deep underground, volcanoes? Pretty much all fossils have to come from a site that preserves rivery or lake or ocean or desert environment. It's also important to look and see if scientists in the past have discovered fossils in your particular area. It's easiest to find a fossil if you join some kind of fossil hunting trip or expedition with a museum or a university in your area. There are also fossil parks, places that allow members of the public to walk around and pick through fossils from a particular area. There are a lot of fossils still in the ground waiting to be discovered. You just have to do a lot of homework in order to figure out where they are. Question number 4. How did you get your cool job? You think my job is cool? It is kind of cool. I like my job. It's pretty good. It's pretty good, even if I have to do it sitting at home. Getting a job as a paleontologist is not easy. A lot of people who are paleontologists work at universities teaching geology or biology, the science of rocks or the science of living things, because paleontology in many ways is where those two things come together. Other paleontologists like myself work in museum settings. That's one other place where we work. Some other paleontologists work as science writers. Others work as technical staff, working in museums to clean and prepare fossils or to organize collection. You have to get good grades in elementary school and then in middle school and in high school. You have to go to college and study the sciences of the rocks and the living things, biology and geology. I actually had to go to school after college to get a PhD, a doctorate, which took an additional 6 years. It takes a long time, but if you really love it, I think it's worth it. Question number 5. Very important question. What is your favorite dinosaur? The crazy thing is, there are over 1,000 different species named of dinosaurs over the past 300 years. We've been adding more every single year. There's new dinosaurs all the time. But still, my personal favorite has to be Tyrannosaurus Rex. It has been since I was 3, I think. And T-Rex is really a remarkable animal. It's one of the biggest carnivorous dinosaurs of all time. It's as tall and long as a school bus, over 40 feet long, with teeth that are shaped like giant toothed bananas. Huge round teeth. And if you look at the details of how T-Rex's skeleton is put together, it's actually a really remarkable dinosaur. It's part of a big family called the Tyrannosaurs. It has a massive head with huge spaces, bigger than any of the other tyrannosaurs, for the muscles in its jaws that allowed it to really specialize on eating not only flesh of other dinosaurs, but also the bones of other dinosaurs. There are specimens of Triceratops and duck-billed dinosaurs that have huge gouge marks in their bones left by a T-Rex that ate them. And a lot of scientists agree with me. T-Rex is really cool. So there's a lot of scientific study. We learn new things about T-Rex every single year. And I think that's part of what makes it such an exciting dinosaur. But I must admit, sometimes I have a new favorite dinosaur, and that's whatever the newest dinosaur is. It's always exciting to see what's new, right? Lately, the most recently named dinosaur is a raptor called Dinobellator from the Cretaceous period, about 67 million years old, of New Mexico in the American Southwest. Now, the specimen of Dinobellator was discovered by paleontologist Stephen Jasinski of the State Museum of Pennsylvania when he was doing work in the Cretaceous period of New Mexico. There's not a lot of bones in the specimen. It's not the whole skeleton. But the few bones we have look an awful lot like those of dinosaurs you might know, like Velociraptor. And that tells us we have a new kind of raptor dinosaur from a place that didn't previously have a nice skeleton like that of Dinobellator. It has massive claws on its feet and hands with huge muscle attachments that would have made them very, very powerful. And so although T-Rex is usually my favorite, Dinobellator is right behind it right now. Question number 6. How do you think dinosaurs became extinct? That's a hard one. Paleontologists are still really interested in when and how dinosaurs became extinct. There's definitely a lot of it that has to do with a giant rock from outer space. Scientists discovered a crater in what is now Mexico that is huge. It was left by a piece of space rock, an asteroid, that would have been about the size of New York City. It hit the Earth at a ridiculous speed, thousands of miles per hour. It would have caused massive tsunamis, waves that would have covered the continent of North America, would have sent lots of poisonous material into the atmosphere, caused forest fires, dust clouds that blocked out the sun. The world was hurting for many, many years after this asteroid struck. And a lot of scientists studying the extinction of the dinosaurs think that this was really the big thing that caused a lot of the damage that led the dinosaurs to go extinct. Now, some other scientists don't think the asteroid was the only thing that contributed to the extinction. They instead think that dinosaurs were already hurting because of volcanic eruptions, changes in the positions of the continent and the climate. There's still a lot of mysteries to resolve about how dinosaurs went extinct. It's very important to note that not all dinosaurs went extinct right at the same time. One tiny subgroup of dinosaurs survived, and they live with us today. Those are the birds. Sparrows, chickens, vultures, eagles, ostriches, they are all part of the one surviving group of dinosaurs. Why did they make it? That's something we're still trying to understand. Maybe it's easier to get around flying than to walk or run. There's still a lot of mysteries, and I hope if you decide to become a paleontologist, you might help us resolve what actually happened to the dinosaurs. Question number 7. Can I visit you at your job? Yeah, absolutely. Once the Virginia Museum is open to visitors again, I'm always happy to show people the exhibits and also the collection space, the back rooms where we keep most of the other fossils. We're happy to give tours to all kinds of groups, from kids to adults. I definitely want to show you guys fossils from dinosaurs, giant sharks. Those are always a big hit. But since you are from Western Maryland, near Cumberland, Maryland, I'd also show you some cool fossils we have from a fossil site near Cumberland called the Cumberland Bone Cave. And we have a lot of fossils from there at the Virginia Museum. Many, many tiny bones from the size of your thumb to the size of a teeny tiny little pinhead. And we have fossils from bats, squirrels, ancient snakes, and frogs that lived during the Ice Age, alongside such crazy animals as American lions, giant beavers and bears, elephants called mastodons. Even if you can't come to the Virginia Museum of Natural History in person, if you get in touch with myself or the Virginia Museum of Natural History education team, we can try and set up digital visits from the collections. The internet allows people to visit from anywhere in the world when the fossil collections are open. And that's great because, to me, fossils are a treasure. They are things that should be shared with everyone. And as a curator, it's a big part of my job, sharing the tales of ancient life with as many people as will listen to me, from scientists, adults, and to kids like you guys. So thank you, Mrs. Athey's 3rd grade class. I'm grateful for all of these great questions that you sent me and for listening to me talk about fossils. And thanks to everyone for joining in from the Virginia Museum Facebook page. I'm Adam Pritchard, and I'll be back with more tales of ancient life.